Jobs up as jobless benefits go down. The June employment report, a big winner. 288,000 new jobs created. Now, the trend is definitely higher, and it is happening as this trend is lower. The number of Americans collecting unemployment falling as those federal extended benefits expire. Some here say that is no coincidence. Are they right? Hi, everybody. Happy July 4th weekend. I'm David Asad. Welcome to Forbes on Fox. Let's go in focus with Mr. Steve Forbes, John Tamny, Sabrina Schaefer, Elizabeth McDonald, Rick Unger, and Bruce Japsen. John, is this a coincidence that the unemployment benefits go down just as job growth goes up?
No, there's a very obvious correlation, and there is because incentives matter. If you know you're going to get a check from the government, whether you're working or not, there's necessarily less urgency on a sunny day or even a rainy day to go out and look for a job. And the other thing that's got to be stressed here is that unemployment benefits make it more expensive for businesses to hire you. If you're getting $1 from the government, that's an extra dollar that a business has to offer you to lure you back from the sidelines. So the correlation is very clear. This is a positive step.
And Bruce, there's a colleague of yours, because he lives in Chicago with you, University of Chicago professor, wrote a piece in the Wall Street Journal talking about how a lot of recruiters were complaining when these unemployment benefits were going strong. People would apply for jobs not with the intention of accepting them, but to demonstrate to the unemployment office that they were looking for work. So there was a disincentive to get a job because you're afraid of losing your benefits.
Well, the University of Chicago was on the south side, and I'm a north sider, and so I guess I would have to disagree with that, because I think people want to work, and I think when people do find a job, they can't take unemployment benefits anymore. I think one of the bad things, though, in this report is that wages are not rising, which also may show that people are taking jobs that are of a lower wage, which proves once again that they want to work. They don't want to be on these benefits.
Well, and Steve, there was another negative in this report. The labor pool is just as small as it was before. So we haven't had a labor pool this small in about 40 years. That is a lot of people just dropping out of the workforce. But to the point, unemployment benefits, do they help or hurt the employment number?
Well, if they're too high, obviously they hurt, and too long. We've seen that in history going back to the Brits in the 1920s. But I think another factor is at work here, David, and that is finally banks are starting to lend again to small and new businesses, which are the big job creators. So that's beginning to overcome some of the adversity of the huge uncertainty of Obamacare and the other things this administration has been doing. But no new taxes on the federal level and bank lending, huge job incentive creator.
But Rick, incentives do matter in this economy, and when you were incentivized not to look for work because sometimes you don't make that much more than you would just sitting home and collecting unemployment insurance.
Well, except you do. I mean, look, let's be honest here. There are always going to be a few bad apples, the people we referred to in the earlier graphic, who really don't want to work, and they show up and they collect their unemployment check. That's a very small number of people. People not only want to work, but if you understand how small an unemployment check is, it doesn't go very far. The trick to getting people working again, create jobs that will put them in there. So I don't think we can draw that line.
Well, Emac, it's true that the unemployment checks are not that, but you add up all the various employment benefits or the unemployment benefits that have been offered by the government since President Obama came in, and it does add up.
Yeah, because the incentive is if you get a job, that means your income goes up and you can't get the benefits. So, but when you look at what happened in states like North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, when they cut jobless benefits, yes, a big bunch of people did get jobs, but more people went on food stamps and disability and welfare. So there's a trade-off there when you cut benefits. But I'm not talking either way for or against. I understand. I'm just giving the data.
I understand. But Sabrina, there does seem to be a connection, doesn't there?
Sure, and we know from reporting that the Washington Post has done that there are literally Washington employees who are going out and trying to sell things like food stamps to people who simply don't need it, but they accept it because it's free. Look, when I looked at that jobs report, the thing that struck me were two different numbers. One was that 12% number. Those are people who are working part-time but want full-time work. To me, that says that that's the real problem. We have a lot of people who want better work, but they simply can't get it, and employers aren't adding hours. And the other number that concerns me economy is the 74%. That's the number of people, according to a Fox News poll, that said that they still feel that the recession is impacting them. So I think that
actually we should clarify that was in January when we literally were contracting. Remember that first quarter was just awful, and we were contracting. But Steve, what about these part-time employees? The quality of jobs isn't that great this time around, is it?
No, it isn't. That's because the business investment has been lagging, innovation's been lagging because of the huge barriers put in the way by government. When you have an uncertain dollar, you have rising taxes, you have regulations coming on, you don't know what it's going to cost to hire somebody because of the uncertainties of health care. You add it all up, it's amazing we're doing as well as we are.
And John, we talk about incentives. There's also another negative incentive we haven't talked about. The government programs make it easier for companies to fire people, because in the past they would try to take care of people's insurance and other things when they were unemployed. Now the government takes care of that, so it's easier to fire people.
Yeah, well, it's got to be stressed that unemployment is a creation of government. It always is, because they're putting up barriers to the investment and the kind of productive activity that would lead to job creation. But I want to stress, I agree with Rick that Americans do want to work. And so we've got to get back to Steve's point that if you do remove these barriers, if government spends less of it, tax less, there will be more capital flowing into new ideas and better jobs that I think people will want.
Emac, go ahead.
And the tone and the tenor coming out of government is so bad, this shrill, negative absolutism that they can stage manage the economy. Ronald Reagan inherited a terrible banking collapse. Citigroup was on the verge of collapse in 1981, and a terrible recession. But somehow he managed to grow the economy 4.5%, 5% a year. How did he do it? Optimism is a force multiplier. He had tax cuts and he did deregulation.
Well, and
Sabrina,
great,
but that's
to Emac's point, we just had the president on Friday in an interview with MarketWatch saying, I'm quoting the president now, we have to continue to see how we can rebalance the economy sensibly. So he's continuing to talk about the government balancing and rebalancing things, which hasn't worked out too well.
Right, he's completely misguided, and he should watch our show from last week where we gave sort of really practical solutions for how we could jumpstart this economy, right? I mean, from streamlining our tax system to deregulation. The bigger problem here is that I think Emac is right. We all want to help people who are in need right now. The fact is, though, that the government's way of helping is actually creating more of a problem. It's creating disincentives to work. It's creating more incentives for employers to lay people off. We should help people, but these mortgage programs and the food stamp programs and the unemployment insurance are actually backfiring.
Let me speak out for gridlock for a moment here. And Rick, I'll go to you on this, because the fact that the Democrats and Republicans can't agree on anything means that certain programs do expire, like the federal unemployment. It expired on January 1st of this year. We see the economy improving. Maybe the less the politicians do inside the Beltway, the more the economy will recover on its own.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. I think
the jobs figures seem to indicate that, don't they?
Well, eventually it is going to recover on its own, but I think it could have happened a lot quicker. But let me say...
hold on a second. John Tamny just trumped you by saying David is right. John Tamny, go ahead. Go ahead, John.
I was about to compliment him.
All right, go ahead. Finish your comment, then we'll go to John.
Because I'm keeping count, I want to note that that's 2 times in 2 weeks that Tamny has agreed with me, but I'm going to pay it forward to Lizzie, because Lizzie said something that is absolutely right. The negativity that both the government and the citizens have displayed is a big part of what has kept this economy down. It's time
there is a little bit of self-fulfilling prophecy there, but John Tamny, go ahead quickly, John.
Investors love certainty. Gridlock is certainty, and with gridlock, you get job creation as a result. Let Washington stay silent.
I'm with you, John. All right.